Hey, what's up everyone? Moses here, bringing you another Path of Exile video guide. This time, it's another Sabo, but we're going to go with Magma Orb Mines. Magma Orb Mines actually feels pretty amazing and has some serious clear. Of course, it does have a drawback. You do lay down the mine, and the projectiles take a second to kind of like spread out and actually hit monsters, but once they do, we're talking about a lot of projectiles and they all do quite substantial amount of damage. We are dealing some cold damage that I specifically added to both my weapon and my Stygian Vice belt hypnotic eye jewel, just in order to be able to, of course we're critting, it's a crit build, so we're critting and stuff will be frozen, will be chilled, will be slowed, and we're going to be able to hear these satisfying chatters. And we're also utilizing this amulet right here, which is very unused in my opinion, but specifically works very nicely with magma orbs, that says projectiles deals 15 to 20% of non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage per chain. And we are chaining, I'm not sure, it says 6 times. Right, so projectiles chain 6 times. Every time it bounces, right, it chains, and each time it hits, that will be almost 20% of non-chaos as extra chaos damage. Is pretty huge as a starter. And of course we have the helm enchant of Magma Orb chain 2 additional time. This is a miner, so we want a miner helmet, shaper helmet, that does the combo hybrid role of remote mine, place an additional mine. This allows us, just like the Glacial Cascade, if you watch the guide, to place 4 mines instead of 3, which straight up gives us 33% more multiplier to our damage, because instead of, you know, putting out 3 out there, we're putting out 4. For the links, we are using, of course, Magma Orb with Remote Mine and Minefield, right? Magma Orb, Remote Mine, and Minefield. Trap and Mine damage support, and Conk effect, because this is an area spell, and that just gives us straight up more more multiplier without any drawback. The area effect here is kind of insignificant, but the area damage will affect magma orbs. And greater multiple projectiles for clear, slower projectiles for you know, for bossing. Slower projectiles is really nice because it's kind of like make all the balls kind of like go into the one area and hit multiple times, chain multiple times, deal a bunch of extra chaos damage, and that's kind of like the core of the build. Outside of that, we do have a cast when damage taken with Immortal Call, which gives us the physical immunity, and Enfeeble to lower monsters' damage. Excuse me. And of course, we are a miner, so we want a detonate mine on demand. Whenever we take damage, this will proc and will detonate all the mines that we have available. Normally, excuse me, in a miner build, would also want a spell totem linked with detonate mine, but they did change detonate mine to be instant. So now every time you detonate mine, it's an instant cast, and you can see over here there's like no delay. And being instant cast makes it so that it's very comfortable, very easy to simply spam your R button or your D button. That's the default. It's just comfortable for me to put it on R and to basically detonate the mines yourself. That is it. We do have an increased duration Righteous Fire, Val Righteous Fire phase run, because we are spellcasters. Still, we will get a big more multiplier off of Val Righteous Fire when it's active, and we do link it with increased duration for a longer duration of the buff effect. Phase run gives us a nice movement speed buff, allowing us to go through enemies, phase through enemies, and making us less visible. And over here in the helm, I just have some spells that I level up, some gems. Nothing here is really, you know, this is our swap gem, but like here, we just level up the gems, nothing too serious. Over here, of course, movement skill is our faster casting, flame dash, and arcane surge for another more multiplier. This will always be up. I am using an essence swarm with anger. Anger gives us a big fire spell fire damage to spells, and we will eventually. I'm currently only level 88. 2 more levels, and we can get into this jewel socket to get a Watcher's Eye. I believe I'll pick up the Watcher's Eyes with fire penetration while affected by anger, so we'll deal most of our damage, of course, is fire, and we will be able to penetrate further fire damage with the Watcher's Eye. In just 2 more levels, we're going to be able to pick this up. Other than that, I believe I went through all the links. Yeah, so we are Sabo. The way that we're leveling up is basically you want your Magma Orb jewels, right? We have inevitability, which allows us to add an additional projectile. Obviously, without it, we'll only have one, well, this is GMP, right? So we only have like 1 projectile off of each mine. So you see just 4 balls, right, from each mine that we lay down. But of course, each one of these with 40 intelligence gives us 1 more. So there's 8, and there is 12. There we go. Right, these are 12 balls, and then with GMP, of course, multiple beautiful balls all around. Isn't that pretty? Now, I did buy the Trend Micronet action for the, Harbinger Magma Orb, but it's just too eye cancerous for my brain. I cannot, this is just too much brightness. I just cannot do this, so, yeah. RIP, $9, 90 points, whatever. It's all gone now. But yeah, didn't really like it. And also the other one, the green one, seems way too toxic, even worse. So I'm just using the default Magma Orb. In my opinion, it looks good, and it's very, very much the least, FPS destroyer available currently for the skill. This is a very, very satisfying build. So yeah, other uniques, we are using an Essence Swarm. You could use Clear Mind. I ended up picking allira. In hindsight, I think 2 more skill points for a skill tree that kind of like hungry. I would actually rather do that. But I did end up going with allira, which is of course 20 crit multi, 15 to all res, not too bad. But in hindsight, maybe we'll change it up later and pick up the 2 skill points and manage our resistances a little better. I just need a little bit of lightning res, and I can basically change it up. There's a small recipe, and you get the book of Book of Allira, Book of Oak, Book of Creighton. If you want to change, you guys can look it up. It's very simple if you want to change your bandit reward, and I might end up doing that later in the life of the build. But other than that, we are Sabo. So we go first into Bomb Specialist. If we want to start with mines, what we need to do with Magma Orb is to basically just go into the Int node quickly as possible to reach the jewel socket. We will later unspec it, but you reach the jewel socket, and then you can go up here to the other jewel socket, and then you have, the inevitability jewels linked over here and over here, and that's like the quickest path to get both of these. If you want to start off as Magma Orb self-cast, or what I did, I used Poet's Pens, and I was using Magma Orb and Arc for leveling until I swapped to mines. I believe it was after the first ascendancy, because only after the first ascendancy do mines with all the increased mine laying speed feel very comfortable, very fluent, right? Of course, it will only get better with the rest of the ascendancy points, but at the beginning, these do add, some damage, some mine laying speed you get over here, and actually we don't get the baby nodes over here, we get it only here. Yeah, the mine laying speed. Never mind. But the more points you have, obviously, the more mine laying speed you're going to get into. The later this build kind of like takes flight. Only a little bit later, once you take all the actual mine nodes, right? So all the little circle over here and the ascendancy points. Only then, mostly after the bomb specialist, the build will start feeling a lot smoother and a lot more fluent, and you'll just be zipping around, destroying enemies, flame dashing around, be able to deploy many balls of magma to destroy everything around you. Very satisfying stuff, especially with the shatters and the cold damage. Yeah, so again, you pick up the two nodes if you want to level up as a Magma Orb. If not, that's fine, you can pick up Freeze Pulse, basically do the same with first Snow Jewel. Here we have the Inevitability, and then we later, you know, respec. But yeah, it's basically the same. If you don't have any of these jewels, if you're just starting out the league, you can just simply just go through the elemental damage nodes first. You know, grab Frost Bomb, Freeze Pulse, Magma Orb, whatever spell cast that you're self-casting. You can just go into the crit, and then into nullification, life, straight into the mine and trap damage, and you can start throwing traps or using mines. It's very, very interchangeable, very, very similar. And yeah, if you're going with traps, you'll pick up these nodes later. If you're going with mines, you don't, because these are strictly trap nodes. But basically that's the tree. I mean, it's very straightforward. We've seen similar trees like that in the Saboteur, GC Miner, in the Saboteur, Arc Trapper, right? So this is very, very similar tree. The only difference is basically these nodes right here. But of course, with the Trapper, your nodes are going to be over here with Master Sapper. This is actually the two extended nodes that we take over here, making the tree slightly more point hungry. And you know, normally without these 2 points, I would be able to get into another jewel socket right away and be doing my you know, watch as I action going. But for now, we cannot, because we need these points and we're only level 88. It will happen very soon. We'll grab that watch as I. The build I already just did, a level tier 15 Elder. It was just crisp and smooth. The damage is actually insane, and just as OP as GC Miner, to be honest, and the AoE is massive. Gloomfang is very underrated. I picked up this one for only 6 chaos. With Anger has increased aura effect. And I am using Anger, so this amulet is actually pretty insane. Of course, we don't need to think too much about the lose life for each enemy hit by your spells, because we are miners and we do get the life regen node from Pyromaniac, so we get 1% life regen per you know, mine detonated recently, and you can see like it goes to 1.1k when we're channeling our mines, and this will not go down as long as we're channeling our mines, even if we're moving a little bit. Recently, that's what it means. We basically have 1.1k life regen per second constantly as we're mapping, and that's how it's going to be. So obviously this is very easy to mitigate, even if we hit multiple enemies with multiple spells. And of course we do have a bunch of balls, you know, throwing all around, but this mitigates that perfectly. For the gear, I picked up just a, you know, crit multi, crit for spells, spell damage, just a wand. I made sure it has a good high tier cold damage for spells, because I do want the balls to freeze, right? And the more cold damage you have, the high chances for the monsters, if when crit, to be frozen and then shattered. Crit for spells, and then I crafted, it did have an open prefix. I crafted spell damage, non-chaos is extra chaos damage. This is a very solid one. Picked it up for, I don't know, 20C, something like that, 25C. People don't go for wands, they go for daggers because of the implicit. In my opinion, that's kind of a mistake, because, I mean, by the way, what is this? Oh, Arctic Breath, right. So we want 37 spell damage while we're here. In my opinion, it's a mistake, because wands are just as good, not if not better, and they're way cheaper, because everybody going for the crit dagger. Somebody once said that crit dagger, and ever since, like, everybody's just doing crit daggers, which in my opinion is just a folly. Scepter with elemental damage implicit, or wands with spell damage implicit, are going to be just as good. It's really all depends on the explicit stats, not the implicit roll itself. Sure, 50% global crit chance is nice, but so does 37% spell damage, and so does 40% elemental damage that you get from a scepter, right? So when it comes to what weapon should I go with, a lot of people ask me, I would just choose the weapon that has the most stats, and we talked about it in a previous video as well. So yeah, we do have again an Essence Swarm, Clear Mind. We really don't have room for that jewel over here, although up to 60% spell damage to go with as a Clear Mind, definitely solid, except in this build we do need the 2 sockets for inevitability. those they have to be there. I managed to get a global crit chance, Vol Corruption here, and Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you, which is kind of irrelevant. For a build like this, it would be good for a self-cast Magma Orb, but since we're throwing down mines and laying down mines, detonating them, we'll never get Corrupted Blood inflicted upon us anyway, so maybe I'll just pick a different jewel with a different corruption later on. And yeah, do I have any other jewel that I can show? I don't think so. Belt was crafted with Scorched, Pristine, and Prismatic. We got Resists, we got the elemental damage and the fire damage that both go to enhance our mine damage, right? And we got some life, we got some resist, very, very solid belt. But of course, just a life resist belt will do. And we were able to craft some mana, had an open prefix, and now we can craft mana on belts in the crafting bench. I also crafted this with, it was fossils, of course, cold while holding a shield, with frigid and pristine. 2-socket resonator, just slammed it, and then I got this, increased damage if you've killed recently, and then I exalted crit chance if you haven't crit recently, which is the perfect roll for trap and for mines, because we never crit, but the mines do, right? So since we never crit, we always permanently have this buff, crit if you haven't crit recently. Which also makes the lab enchant, right, the labyrinth, the best or second best roll for you to have. It gives you up to 120% in the in the Uber lab, right, the final one, the Eternal Labyrinth, the final one, level 75. The enchant says 120% global crit chance if you haven't crit recently, which always applies. I ran 4 labs and I managed to get the best enchant. I was running twice Enchanted Prophecy, and it gives you a chance to enchant twice, right? So I failed 7 times. The 8th time I was able to get this one. Damage penetrates enemy elemental resistance if you haven't killed recently. Again, we do not kill, we do not hit, we do not crit, so this is a permanent damage all the time, just like GC mines, just like arc traps, as Magma Orb. Very, very solid enchant to get. Other than that, we have life resists, movement speed. On the shield we have life, crit for spells, and light res, as well as some spell damage. And since it has an open prefix, there's a new craft that you can get, non-chaos as extra chaos damage. This shield gives us a pretty hefty DPS boost, about 6k sheet DPS, which is pretty insane because of this craft. And for the gloves, I picked just life, single resists, and another new craft that you can get this league, and from this point on, I believe, increased damage during any flask effect, 23% during any flask effect, which is pretty solid with the hybrid life roll. These, I believe, were like 50 cows or something. This I actually self-found pretty sweet. The helmet, Magma Orb with the helmet enchant, I think I picked it up for like 30, 40 C. Or 50 or something like that. And the lore weave, of course, because OP. And yeah, over here we just have some life mana resistances that I needed, just as much life as I possibly could get. This ring gives us roughly 300 life, and open prefix to craft the global. So all these new crafts, we got the hybrid craft that didn't exist before this league, increased damage during flask effect, mana. All of these are quite potent. Non-chaos is extra chaos. This is huge for us. And of course some flat fire and cold, again because we want to crit, we want to freeze and shatter. And over here we got some life and evasion energy shield. So this is basically it. Gloomfang, pretty strong. Flasks, bubbling or seething, of staunching. Chemist of warding, doesn't have to be chemist, but whatever, an extra use maybe. Series promise, you want to make sure you have the 15 elemental as extra chaos. This is not a glacial cascade mines, this is a pure elemental build, right? It's a spell that is only elemental, so the physical as extra is irrelevant for us. Just pick one that has the 15 elemental as extra chaos. The physical as extra is irrelevant. This here, just an alchemist of heat. We do need to remove freeze, and Leviangas is our permanent, basically permanent mana, you know, flask, and it will give all of our mana cost completely free when the flask is active. You see, mana doesn't go down, and we can just continue spamming and destroying and recharging our flasks. This is it. This is the build. Pretty sweet, pretty solid. I personally love it. Of course, I'll leave a link to in the description below. Let's do a meep. What do I have here? Sunken City? Sure, let's do it with the Pantheon power because I like to collect the Pantheon powers. Pantheons for the build, I mean, sure. Cannot be stunned if you stunned, yada yada. Kinda lame, but I guess we'll use this one. Yeah. Chance to dodge, avoid projectile that have chained, chance to avoid projectile, and physical damage reduction. I believe this is the strongest one. We did pick up all the Pantheons for most of these, and now we're going to pick up the Sunken City. So that's a 14. I do have one. This is rare and I did. Sure, why not? Let's add some abysses for the fluff. Zana is going to be here. I'm not going to do the Zana mission. I mean, there's a limit. Let's see. 98. It does have elemental weakness, but we don't care, obviously. Yeah, that's the build. Things just literally die, and it feels very, very satisfying, I must say. And I was kind of surprised. The reason why I started this is because I've wanted to use Gloomfang for quite some time, I must say. And, you know, I never played Magma Orb. This is the first time I'm playing Magma Orb, right? So I was like, maybe it can go well with mines, because I know self-cast is kind of lame, and I didn't want to do a Poet's Pen, because Magma Orb Poet's Pen is like, I've used it kind of like for leveling, and it does feel really, really good, but, you know, I couldn't really justify using Gloomfang with this. There was all sorts of reasons why not, and I ended up, you know, dumping the idea of Gloomfang and all that kind of stuff, but, so yeah, you always use your essence on spirit shields, and you seriously never know what you're gonna get. Okay, use the implicit, 15 to 20% implicit. There's 3 shields, and I don't use essences. I don't hoard essences. I just keep them on me, and whenever there's a shield dropping, I'm just using it on. The 3 shields are fossilized, bone, spirit shield, and fossilized, bone spirit, and ivory, spirit shield, carcass. So yeah, these are the 3, and I only, you know, I never really stock, like I never really hoard all my essences. Just, you know, just keep them, and every once in a while you get some seriously surprising result with some spell damage, with some life, some big crit for spells, resists. I mean, sky's the limit when it comes to these shields. And now, if you have an open prefix, instead of crafting like a hybrid life roll, which I could, just 9 chaos is extra chaos, 9 non-chaos is extra chaos is actually huge, you know. So strongly recommend to just use the essences on whatever item, and it doesn't matter what build you play, you know, right? Even if you play just even an attack build and you happen to be watching this video right now, you know, even if you play anything, just, you know, it doesn't have to be spirit shields. Just use your essences instead of selling them and buying them. It's such a pain. Of course, you know, there's the unique essences that you need to use on Remnant of Corruption. Dread, Misery, Scorn, and Envy. Whenever you see those, you need to use the Remnant of Corruption on them. But, you know, and these you can actually sell. They're worth a little bit of cash, but the regular essences are kind of like a pain because nobody wants them. Like, rarely people do. And, you know, they're just gonna sit there, and you won't know what to do with them. Instead, just use them. It's like an alchemy orb with a purpose, right? So I don't like the elemental weakness.
This one's going to
okay, Vault, Righteous Fire, and that's pretty much the end of these guys. It that fled moves to transportation. No, thank you, Leo.
always
+1 rank
At
Leo,
least it was
sure.
quick.
Barisi,
If you think I'm going to say or do,
+1, sure. And this guy, Plus 4 transportation intelligence, but I don't
We
want to
have come
commit
to an
and
accord.
move him into transportation. I actually want him to be in research and rip my flasks. Can we just go here? Yep, we could. Okay, another abyss. Let's go. Nice. Actually goes the right place. So I mean, monsters just like legit don't have a chance. You can pop your Val Righteous Fire and just own them even more. There's an Ivory Spirit Shield right here, and there's an Abyssal thingy. Pick it up, throw it over here. It's garbage. Picking up everything else from the ground, and we go. What is this? Shared boon. Always kind of look to see that you're not falling into a trap. Okay, boss time, and I don't have my Val Righteous Fire rip, but it's okay. Because we're charging up our mines, and yeah, she got scared, ran away. Put the slower proj. Oh god. Yeah, slower proj, and basically easy clap. Except she's kind of an annoying boss. We do have the you know, the Divine Vessel that buffs her up a little bit, right? So. Oh my god! Come on. See what I mean? I mean, with GC, you're kind of like instant, but here you actually have the balls take a few seconds to, balls take a few seconds to actually hit the target, especially with slower projectile, right? But when they do, I mean, just look at that. Isn't that a thin beauty? I personally love it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to be leveling up this dude for, I don't know, at least 96, because it's like so easy and everything melts. You barely ever die, and even that is basically Twitch chat's fault. So there is that. So we're going to be grinding with this guy for a few more days, and then I got some more ideas for some more cool builds. You guys are more than welcome to join the stream. Twitch TV, Moses Plays. We're grinding every day, all day. I'll see you guys on the next one.